Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Abhishek. Welcome to our channel Medicine Decoded. Today we'll be starting on our series of ultrasound, of lectures based on ultrasound. And this particular lecture that is going to be a basic of ultrasound is going to be the most informative and the most basic lecture. Here we're not going to discuss about the intricate details about how an ultrasound is done or what the piezoelectric crystals are there or how the image is formed. But we're going to be discussing only the basic forms like what we are expecting to see in an ultrasound and how is an image formed in an ultrasound. This is for not only the postgraduates, for undergraduates, for anyone who wants to have some basic knowledge of how does an ultrasound work. So as we know that most of you must be knowing that ultrasound is using certain type of sound waves. Now these are those sound waves which are usually not audible to human ear, and that's a blessing in disguise. Had they been audible, the patient would be talking, the doctor would be talking, and the machine would be making sounds as well. It's fascinating that these sound waves do not produce any sound. Like they do produce sound, but they're not audible to human ears. And these are the sound waves which are used in formation of images in an ultrasound machine. Talking about as a technique, ultrasound, as you know, it's using just sound waves. It is not using any ionizing radiations. It is completely safe to use. It's a very easy procedure, convenient, and is a dynamic procedure. This is the common way in which ultrasound is done. This particular image shows you the transabdominal ultrasound. Most of you might have undergone some sort of sonography in your life. So what we do in a sonography is that when the patient is lying down, the doctor or the radiologist who's there, he places a probe or a transducer, what we call it in our language, over the patient's body. And there is a certain semi-solid substance which is placed over the patient's body because these sound waves cannot transmit through air. So we need a certain thing which can act as a transmitting medium. In our case, we use jelly. Otherwise, you can use any liquid. Even if you put water and you use the ultrasound probe over it, you can still have the same quality image while using this particular jelly. Now, why I put three images is that most of you might be knowing that ultrasound is used only for abdomen and for pregnancies, but it is not true. Ideally, any soft tissue of the body can be imaged exquisitely well by using a normal sonographic machine. In this particular image, ultrasound of the arm is being done, in which you can evaluate not only fluid containing structures, you can also see the soft tissues, you can also see nerves, muscles, everything. And you'll be surprised to know that in neonates, ultrasound can be used to see even the brain. Why ultrasound can be used in neonates and brain and not in adults, we'll be discussing about that in our subsequent lectures, in our subsequent section. So last time we've discussed about how does an image form in a X-ray. Now that was a bit different. When we talk about ultrasound, the ultrasound image is formed by one single element which is called as the transducer or the probe. Now what does the probe do? The probe is responsible for emitting the sound waves. Now when the sound waves are emitted, a bit of the sound waves touch the patient. Some of them are transmitted back, so transmitted after the beyond the patient, and the others are reflected back. Now let's revise what we studied in X-rays. X-rays also the same thing was happening, but there was a film which was placed just underneath the patient, which was responsible for what you call as receiving the images, receiving the X-rays which were transmitted through the patient's body, and the image was formed. But this is in complete contradiction to what we see in X-rays. In this particular case, this transducer is a fascinating structure. It's a wonderful structure. Not only is it responsible for emitting the sound waves, it is also responsible for accepting the received sound waves. So now what we can conclude that only the sound waves which are reflected back will be taken up by the transducer and will form an image. So next question that might come to your mind is when we're talking about sonography is that what are the substances which are going to be transmitting the sound waves and what are the substances which are going to be reflecting the sound waves. This is a schematic diagram. Again, we can see that there is an ultrasound transducer which is generating the sound waves. This is that particular organ. The sound waves hit that organ. Some are reflected back, which form an image on a transducer. And whatever the sound waves are going to be passed off, they are going to be of no use to the ultrasound transducer because transducer won't pick them. And all those sound waves which are transmitted will not produce any image on sonography, and that will appear black. On the other hand, whatever images are going to be transmitted back to the ultrasound will produce some signal on the ultrasound machine. Maybe it could be white, it could be gray, it could be of some other shade. So coming to the most basic point, how does a particular object behave in front of ultrasound waves? To explain this is an example I've taken from the sonar. I hope that most of you might be familiar with the concept of sonar, that is sound navigation and ranging, or radar. Now, sonar waves, like what happens is that sonar is behaves very similar to the ultrasound waves, in which what do these navy machines and these submarines do? They emit sound waves which are very similar to the ultrasound waves. And once these sound waves are transmitted, a bit of these sound waves are reflected by solid submarines, and whatever they are reflected, they are picked up by the transmitter here. This is very similar to the transducer of the ultrasound that we see. That means when we're using an ultrasound machine, whatever the sound waves are of the ultrasound waves are going to pass through liquid, they're going to fall, they're going to behave freely. They'll never going to return, because liquids are not going to produce any deceleration to the movement of sound. They're going to produce no restriction to the movement of sound. On the other hand, any solid substance, depending upon the density, will reflect a major part of the sound waves, and whatever is reflected back, obviously it is going to produce some color. The more the sound waves are reflected, the brighter the image is going to be appearing on the ultrasound. So this was all about the basic mechanism of sonography. Now coming on to the common objects that we see in our day-to-day life on sonography. But before that, I'll just like to discuss the terminology. Anechoic, echo means the intensity of the sound waves. Anechoic means no echoes. When there are going to be no echoes which are going to be reflected back, the image that is going to be formed will be completely black. A substance which is hyperechoic means it is going to transmit, it is not going to transmit any sound waves, it is going to reflect majority of the sound waves. And as a result, a large number of sound waves are going to be reduced by the transmitter or the transducer. And as a result, this will be highly echoic, and this will appear completely white. Hypoechoic is a related term. It is somewhere between hyperechogenic and completely anechoic. It could be in varying shades of gray, but it is relative. A substance is going to be hypoechoic in respect to another structure. So with these words, let us see the common things that we see in our day-to-day life on sonography. Now, starting off with this particular image first, what we can see in this particular image, we can see that there is a substance which is present, which is giving us a black color. Before I go ahead, I'll tell you one more thing. One more funda of ultrasound is that the ultrasound beams, they travel in just like in parallel direction, like X-rays or any other rays. So the thing that is going to strike the ultrasound beam first is going to be appearing closest to the screen. In this particular case, what I want to say is that if this substance is closest to the screen surface, it means it is closest to the ultrasound probe. Now let us look at this particular structure, which we can see it is completely black. So black would mean anechoic because it is not producing any echoes. We can see that this structure has a ball, this structure has a quadrilateral shape, and this structure is present just beneath the skin because the transducer is present just over the skin surface. If I tell you that while I was imaging this organ, the transducer was placed just above the pubic symphysis or the suprapubic region, you can easily deduce this is a structure which is fluid filled, present in the suprapubic region, has a quadrilateral shape and is a walled off structure. So it is nothing but the urinary bladder. So going on with that analogy, any bladder which is containing fluid will appear black, and there are only two bladders in the body, the urinary bladder and the other one is the gallbladder. So keeping that in mind, I'll show you another structure. This is a pear-shaped structure, as you can see. I'm not interested in this structure right now. I'm interested in this particular structure, which is completely black. Now you can see that this black colored structure has also got a thin wall, but it is not present just beneath the skin. You can see that there is a certain amount of tissue which is separating it from the skin surface. So we can deduce that this pear-shaped structure is a structure which contains fluid because it is completely anechoic, it is black, and it is present at certain depth from the skin surface. More importantly, if I tell you that I was imaging the right hypochondrium while I found the structure, then anybody of you can tell that this is nothing but the gallbladder. So we discussed about two bladders, the gallbladder and the urinary bladder. The third thing is these two paired structures, which are ovoid structures. You can see, majority of you can see by the shape that they look like human eye. Indeed, they are the human eye. You can see that they are looking black because human eye is filled with vitreous humor, which is again a fluid. It is not going to reduce, reflect any sound waves, and it is going to transmit all the sound waves. And this you can also see that there is a certain amount of lens material which is present anteriorly. But the concept is anything which is transmitting almost all the sound waves through it will appear black. And all these bladders, the eye, the UB, and obviously the last thing which I left was the adnexal cyst. This is the adnexal cyst. All the cysts, the simple cysts in the body, wherever they are present, whether they present in the kidney, whether they present in the liver, whether they present in the ovary, testes, anywhere, even in breast, they will be filled with fluid. And until unless they're complicated by some hemorrhage or something, because the fluid is completely anechoic, you will see them as very thin walled structures which have got no color. They'll appear black or something which is anechoic. So this is how these anechoic structures look on sonography. Okay, now moving ahead with the other spectrum. The other spectrum is that of hyperechoic substances. Now, hyperechoic substances I told you are those ones which are going to be absorbing or no, which are going to be reflecting majority of the sound waves. So those substances which are very hard will be reflecting majority of the sound waves, as we discussed. The higher the density, the more the sound waves which are going to be reflected back. There are two major hard substances in our body, that is the bone and the stone. So let us look at this particular image first. This particular image, as you can obviously, as I told you in the last section of anechoic structures, now you can see that this is a structure which is anechoic. It is a pear-shaped structure, and if I tell you I was imaging right hypochondrium while I was imaging this structure, then obviously anybody can say that this pear-shaped looking structure which is anechoic is going to be some form of bladder, and the bladder which is present in right hypochondrium is the gallbladder. Now this gallbladder contains fluid. Fluid is bile. Bile is anechoic, so this is going to be definitely anechoic. On the other hand, this particular structure, we just saw in our previous slide that a quadrilateral structure which is present just beneath the skin surface is nothing but a urinary bladder which contains fluid because it contains urine, which is completely anechoic. But that's not all. Now you see that there is inside this gallbladder, we can see a structure which is very, very white or very, very bright on sonography. So this structure which is very white and very bright on sonography must be a hard structure. So what do you expect? A substance which is very hard, which is present within the gallbladder, which is producing a very bright image. So it has to be a gallbladder stone. And similarly, this is a urinary bladder, or you can see on the dependent wall of the urinary bladder, there is a structure which is white. There is a structure which is white, and this is responsible for producing a very hyperechogenic image on sonography. So both of these are stones. One was there in the gallbladder, the other was there in the urinary bladder. Now, one more thing which you all also need to see is that just beneath this particular stone is a black colored shadow which is there. You can see that there is a black colored shadow which is produced by the stone. Now, why this shadow is being produced? It is being produced because it is a very strong structure. It doesn't allow any sound waves to pass beyond it. All the sound waves are reflected, and as a result, we cannot image anything beyond it. In our terminology of radiology, we call it as acoustic shadowing, and it is very classical for all calcified substances like stones as well as bones. And this is the reason why for imaging bones, ultrasound is not the imaging modality, because our bones will reflect almost all the sound waves and they will not allow anything to pass beyond them, and as a result we cannot see or visualize the medullary cavity of the bone, which is the seat of most of the infections or the malignant or any other processes in the body. Having said that, there is one more addition I would like to make when we're discussing about the anechoic substances. We've discussed about the bladder, we've discussed about cysts, we've discussed about cavities, but we haven't discussed about fluid which is there at one more place in our body, which can be imaged by sonography, and that is in the blood vessels. The blood within the blood vessels, the fluid is moving. Similarly, as in the heart also contains fluid, so it can be very well imaged on sonography and it will appear anechoic. And anywhere when you see a linear anechoic structure in the body, it has to be some form of a tube, and the tubes which are present in the body which transmit fluid are only blood vessels. They could be veins, they could be lymphatics, or they could be plain arteries. So revising the basics again: anechoic, no echoes, black. Bladder, cyst, cavities are going to be looking black, anechoic. Hyperechoic are white. All the stones and the bones are going to appear bright on ultrasound. And hypoechoic is a relative term. These substances are going to appear gray. They include all solid organs like kidneys and liver and pancreas and so on. So when you talked about the gray colored or the hypoechoic or isoechoic thing, I need to show two more images to you. This is the one, this is a solid organ, as we can see this, because this is not containing any anechoic structures apart from these three linear anechoic structures that we, as you can see here. This is the structure which is present in right hypochondrium, the largest organ of the body. This is liver, the largest abdominal organ of the body. This is liver. And all what we can see moving around in a linear fashion, which are anechoic, these are the blood vessels, these are the hepatic veins. Similarly, I think all of you can guess by the shape of this organ, this is not white, so it is not bony. This is not black, so it doesn't contain any fluid or cysts. This is giving a reniform contour, and this is present in lumbar region. There can be nothing else, but this is the kidney. And I won't be telling why some things are looking white and some things are looking gray, but this is for a general understanding, for general information. A reniform shape should give you an indication while imaging in the lumbar region. Nothing else can be present other than the kidney. So now coming on to last section of this lecture, which will be focusing on how do we do a sonography. One is the most commonly used the transabdominal scan, in which the probe is placed over the abdomen. The other is transvaginal, the others are transvaginal and transrectal. These are the endocavitary ultrasounds, they are specialized ultrasounds. So this is a transabdominal scan in which the probe is placed over the abdomen for scanning elsewhere. But when we are trying to scan the uterus or we want to scan prostate in males, we should have the bladder full in this particular case. Otherwise, when bladder is going to be empty, first of all, bladder itself is not going to be seen. And apart from that, the other structures are going to take place of bladder, and the optimum utilization of all the pelvic organs in a normal anatomical state won't be possible. While using a transvaginal probe, the probe is inserted deep down the vagina. So as you can see that this probe is inserting into the vagina, we almost bypass the role of the urinary bladder. Now, as I told you that when we are forming an image on a sonographic screen, the image which is closest, the part which is closest to the transducer will form the image first on the ultrasound or the transducer image ultrasound screen. So the first image that will be formed in the transvaginal scan is that of cervix. We won't be able to find any bladder in the transvaginal scan because bladder is already emptied and it is bypassed. Secondly, this image, see the uterus is far behind, so the image of uterus in this particular case will not be much magnified. While a transvaginal scan is scanning only the uterus, so we'll have a much brighter and not much magnified image of uterus on the screen while using a transvaginal scan. Transrectal sonography is specifically limited for prostate, and it is used to see some prostatic nodules, but it is in clinical practice, its role is significantly limited. Apart from doing biopsies, we usually do not do it on a routine basis. So these are the two images of the same patient. First is the transabdominal scan. This is important because sometimes you might be given some pictures and you might be asked whether it's a transabdominal or it's a transvaginal sonography. So you can see that there are clear-cut differentiating points. In a transabdominal sonography, the first thing that we see is the bladder because it is just close. It is the closest to the skin and the subcutaneous planes. And behind the bladder, I'll tell you, this is a female patient. So behind the bladder, you can see that there is an oblong structure which is present. And this oblong structure is of some grayish color. So it is a structure which is a solid structure. This is a female patient. Anything which is present behind the uterus, behind the bladder, which is oblong in shape, has to be uterus. But when we look at it, we can clearly see that the image is not very clear. We can see that there is a bright central line, but we cannot clearly distinguish its margins. And obviously, we cannot even see the uterine walls very clearly. Like a very small soft tissue tumor here or there or myoma may easily be missed on this scan. Now compare it with this scan. This is again of the same patient. See that the image of the uterus is far more magnified in this particular case, firstly. Secondly, the first thing which forms an image is the uterine cervix or the uterus directly. We have bypassed the bladder. There was no use of bladder. There's no image of bladder on a transvaginal scan. Because obviously the transducer touches the cervix first. Secondly, because we've emptied the bladder. We do not need to see bladder in this case. So these are the 2 or 3 major differentiating points between a transabdominal and transvaginal scan. Looking at the transvaginal scan of the uterus or more closely, you can see uterus is a classical globular organ. This globular organ is something which is gray colored because it is a soft tissue organ. It is not a cystic organ. Secondly, we can see that there is an inner lining which is giving us some color. The central part is bright. The outer part is somewhat gray or brown or hypoechoic, you can say. The central part is echogenic. This is the endometrial cavity. Endometrial cavity behaves this way and it changes its size, it changes even sonographic morphology in different phases of menstrual cycle, which we'll be discussing in our subsequent sections. So this was a basic lecture about how do we see and how does an image form on a sonography.